I made over 4,000 YouTube videos for my clients to help them make more money. And in this video, I'm going to share with you the 3 most critical things you need to get right for the algorithm to love you and to share your videos to get you more views and make you more money. And this is the exact thing that I teach my clients to help them understand what they have to do to win over the algorithm. The crazy thing is, when we actually figured this whole thing out, we actually were able to take clients from hundreds of views to like literally thousands, if not tens of thousands of views that generated millions of dollars of revenue. Now, in case you don't know who I am, my name is Kan Huang. I run a YouTube agency called Social Wave, where we help business owners and personal brands grow their YouTube channels and help them generate more revenue. We've actually helped more than 300 businesses blow up on YouTube, generating millions of dollars of leads. All right, let's get into it. So YouTube only has one core purpose, and that is basically to actually keep people staying on the platform, make more money by getting people to actually watch more ads, basically. So if you can actually align yourself and help YouTube make more money, then you're naturally also going to get more views for your videos and therefore make more money on YouTube as well. So to be able to achieve this, YouTube basically needs to show viewers the content that they'll love, keep them watching for longer, and also make them return to the platform. And therefore, YouTube has actually built the world's most sophisticated system for, number 1, identifying and understanding what people want. Number 2, identifying who will be interested in what. And number 3, matching those viewers with the perfect content as well. And for business owners, this is really powerful because when you create videos on YouTube, you don't need to actually find your audience. There's no targeting required. YouTube will take care of that for you. You just need actually to help the YouTube algorithm understand who you're trying to reach. So there are 3 pillars of YouTube algorithm success. Now, just so you know, there is a lot more to this. YouTube's a lot more sophisticated than these 3 things, but it's really critical to get these 3 things right, because just like Pareto's principle, the 80-20, this is the 20% that gets 80% of the results as well. So I'm going to go through that. And the reason why there are 3 pillars is because if you took one of those pillars away, then you're on shaky foundations, right? Think of it also like a tripod. Like if you took one of the legs away, this whole thing doesn't work. So you need all 3. It's not like one is in isolation, and if you get that one thing right, then the other 2 doesn't matter. It's really actually critical that you get all 3. The 3 pillars that we're going to be talking about is, number 1, click-through rates. Number 2, average view duration. And number 3, viewer satisfaction. Now, before I get into that, I want to preface just by saying that even though we're talking about the algorithm, I just want you to also understand that the word algorithm can be replaced with the word people or human. The reason why is because YouTube has figured out how to actually optimize for the human experience on YouTube. So when it comes to that, if your content's not getting results, it's not getting views, you're not generating leads from YouTube, it's not because the algorithm doesn't like you, it's not because YouTube's playing God, although YouTube does play God sometimes, is that basically your content is not good, it's not competitive, it's not interesting and engaging, and it's because it's probably not hitting all 3 of these metrics that I'm about to show you as well, okay? So the first metric we're going to be talking about is actually click-through rate. So what is click-through rate? Click-through rate basically is the idea that it's the number of people who see your video on their YouTube feed, particularly on their home feed or the recommendations feed, and how many actually click on it. So for example, if your video shows up 100 times and 5 people click it, then that's a 5% click-through rate. So click-through rates are generally influenced by a few things. The first one is your choice of topic. How interesting is a topic? Are people wanting to watch a video about this topic? So for example, if you chose a topic that was wrong, for example, if you're in a room presenting to a room of golfers and you wanted to teach them about football or talk about football and they had no interest in football, then it wouldn't matter, right? So you need to make sure you choose the right topics. Number 2 is you need to actually have great titles and great thumbnails. We call it packaging. So the analogy or the metaphor I give is, imagine if you're like walking through a supermarket aisle and you see a packet of crisps everywhere. And then you sort of look around and there's all these like great packaging, not so great packaging, and there's one that sticks out to you, right? So you stop, you grab that packet of crisps and you see that salt and vinegar, right? And so what basically the packaging allows you to do is, firstly, it stops you in your tracks because it grabs your attention. That's what the thumbnail basically does, which is that exterior packaging. And then the actual title, which is kind of like the salt and vinegar, or the title of the package, essentially tells you and creates a promise of what's inside. Okay. Now, in the case of a packet of crisps, you're going to open that up and you're going to expect to taste salt and vinegar chips, right? And we're going to get into that in a second. This analogy does go somewhere. The idea behind that is that you basically need to get them to stop scrolling, but we want to make sure that the title and the thumbnail actually grabs their attention and they're going to actually click on the video and actually watch it as well. So ultimately, you want to actually maximize for as high of a click-through rate as possible. Now, most businesses, from what we see, usually average anywhere between 5 to 7% click-through rates. That's usually a good indication of a good click-through rate. One thing to bear in mind though is that click-through rates are volatile. They sort of change over time, and particularly if your video is doing really well and it really sort of grows, you will actually expect that click-through rates will drop. I'll talk about that in a separate video, but just understand that just because you have either a high or a low click-through rate, that alone is not good enough for your videos to perform, but it is one critical step out of the 3 pillars for this to work. So the next one we're going to actually talk about is average view duration. So average view duration is the number of minutes, hours, or footage that someone basically watches, right? It's the total absolute number. And what we want to do is we want to make sure videos generally can keep people staying on YouTube for as long as possible. So I'll give you an example. If you had a YouTube Shorts or you have a video that's under like 60 seconds and they watched all 60 seconds, they would have watched 100% of the video. Whereas if you have a video that's like 40 minutes and they watched only 50% of the video, then that would be a 20-minute video. We find that in our experience, longer videos tend to perform better than shorter videos as a result. And why? Because again, more opportunities for YouTube to serve up more ads, more ad placements for people to basically watch as well, right? That's just the unfortunate nature of the algorithm. And so your video needs to retain people. This is the thing that you want to optimize for when it comes to average view duration. It is this idea of retention. Retention just refers to how long can you hold on to someone's attention during a video before they decide that they're not going to watch any further as well. Sort of like a few components that we need to optimize for when it comes to average view duration. The first one is actually the hook. The hook is basically the first minute of the video or 30 seconds of the video, and it basically reaffirms the expectation that was created in the title and the thumbnail packaging. So going back to the analogy or the metaphor of the salt and vinegar chips, if, for example, the package promises that there's going to be salt and vinegar crisps inside and it's double crunch and it's extra crunchy, then you should expect that is going to be the case. Now, when someone opens up that packet of crisps and you take a bite out of it, if it's going to be barbecue flavor or chicken flavor, you're going to be really pissed because it's not what you expected, right? And so you can expect that in the case of YouTube, if that happens, meaning whatever you promised in the video that someone clicked on did not meet that person's expectations, then that person's going to leave because it's not what they expected. And often that expectation is made usually within the first bite or the first few bites, or in YouTube's case, the first 30 to 60 seconds, give or take, right? And so what we need to do in the hook is essentially reaffirm and say, you're in the right place. One of the first things that I like to do is basically just to repeat the title. So even if you watch this video, you'll probably find that I actually repeated the title within the first few sentences, just so you know you're in the right place here and you go, cool, this is going to be something that I'm going to continue to watch as well. The other thing that the hook basically does is think of it as like chapters in a book, right? So the title and the thumbnail or the packaging is basically what we call like a book cover. So this is a thing that grabs your attention and says, here, come have a look. What the actual hook does is the hook is like the book chapters, right? So what we say is we preface by saying, here's like the value journey. If you're going to watch this video, I'm going to actually talk about 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And so by doing so, the person who watches a video can then decide whether or not they're going to stick around. And what fundamentally happens is they look at that and then they go, oh, okay, I can see exactly the progression that's going to be happening in the video. And so let's just say, for example, the hook sets up the expectation or reconfirms the expectation. What the rest of your video basically needs to do is retain their attention for as long as possible. And to do that, we basically need to actually deliver on the promise that we made in the title and the thumbnail and also in the hook as well. So when we talk about progression, one of the things that we really need to make sure that people understand is that progression is the most important factor when it comes to video retention and maximizing average view duration. And the most common reason why actually viewers stop watching is because there is a lack of progression or payoffs in the video. Now, this is not a scripting masterclass. I'm not going to go into that too much, but just understand that if, for example, your video is all over the place and there's a lot of plot holes and loose ends, just like a bad Netflix series, then usually what you end up doing when you watch a TV show is you go, well, there's too much confusion. I'm not going to continue, right? The same principle applies with YouTube videos, but rather than a whole series, it's just one particular video. So in this case, a Fichtean curve is something that is used in Hollywood. If you look at your favorite Pixar movies, your Marvel movies, superhero movies, they all use a Fichtean curve. And it's this idea of like these little climaxes or mini crises points that lead to the big climax. Now, we call that the height of tension. And basically what a height of tension is just this release. It's usually when like, say, Batman and Joker, square down and they have their big battle or their big moment that the movie sort of builds a climax towards. And so the little crisis points are usually like those little spot fires and those little fights that they have and these little sort of like games that they play with each other until they get to that sort of end goal of like showdown or an absolute like one-to-one. So if you think about Marvel as well, it's the same thing, right? Like Thanos is like the big fight at the end with Thanos. that's the big climax, the height of tension, right? The little crisis points are like Thanos doing that, and you know, the superheroes and the Marvel and the Avengers doing this and that. So you sort of understand that it's sort of this idea of like worsening problems, and there's like progression towards that, right? And it's not to say that we need to create like that level of tension, right? This is Hollywood and this is cinematics. But for like your YouTube video, you want to actually give people some sort of big climax or some sort of big outcome that they could sort of receive as a payoff at the end as well. And so this is the idea of progression. And the more progression that your video basically has, the better your video is actually going to perform, because it keeps people engaged and they're going to be like, okay, what's next? What's next? What's this building towards? And what's that end outcome, right? And so again, just going back to the idea of average view duration, these are one of the tactics, one of the main things that we use in our agency to actually help our clients continue to get high average view duration, which then will contribute to better view count as well. And the last thing, which is something that when I found out and I got taught this, my mind was absolutely like blown, which is this concept of like viewer satisfaction, right? And I was like, well, how do you measure viewer satisfaction? And YouTube actually has a way. Now, we don't know exactly how YouTube measures it, but we can conceptually understand it. And there are some data metric points in the algorithm that YouTube basically measures, right? And we've tested this quite extensively across our clients. And we believe that if you don't actually get viewer satisfaction, even if you got high click-through rate and high average view duration, a lower viewer satisfaction can actually mean the difference between a video that gets, 100 views versus tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of views as well, and ultimately generating more money for your business as well. How is viewer satisfaction measured? Now, before we get into that, one of the things that I'll talk about a little bit is just like the concept of satisfaction, right? It's this idea of like how fulfilled are viewers after they watch your content, right? So it's similar to like client satisfaction after they use your services. Satisfied viewers are more likely to become clients, right? So that's just number one. That's why it's critical. Number two is they're more likely to share your content, right, with peers, colleagues, other people. And YouTube's more likely to promote that content because they understand that viewers find it more valuable. So some of the metrics that YouTube basically look at is you see sometimes YouTube sends like viewer surveys. So they want to understand whether or not you're happy with the piece of content or not. One thing to also mention that's really critical is that if you've ever watched a video, even though you've clicked on a video, and even though you've watched right to the end, does not mean you're satisfied. Like I've watched a lot of videos where I watched to the end and I'm gone, that was a bloody waste of time. The same principle applies here. YouTube understands that just because people watch the full video, people click on the video, it does not mean that they're always happy with it. And so we often look at what's called like return viewership rates, like how many people actually come back and watch more of your content, but also like bingeability of your content or whether they subscribe to your channel. So after someone watching a video, do they actually go to your channel? Do they look at more channels? Do they watch more videos? Do they subscribe? Do they share? Do they bookmark? Do they save? Right? These sorts of things. A couple of things that we notice that don't work is actually like likes and comments. We find that it doesn't really affect the performance of a video. What we do notice is that videos that generally get more likes and comments by nature because they get more views tend to perform better. So there is a bit of correlation, but it's not the causation of why a particular YouTube video does well. So for all of you who are out there trying to like get your friends and family to leave comments and likes and that sort of stuff, stop doing it. It doesn't affect the performance of the video, just so you know, right? And so it's the idea of like monitoring post-video behavior, right? So you've got like click-through rate, which is pre-video viewership behavior. Then you've got average view duration, which is during the video behavior. And then you've got post-view behavior, which is what do they do after they've watched your video as well. Now, just as an extension of the mental exercise that I just gave you, understand that sometimes you can actually watch a short amount of video, so low average view duration, right? And clicked on that video and been very satisfied with that video as well. So YouTube understands that average view duration or full average view duration does not necessarily equal satisfying videos as well. And this goes back to the point that all three of these are really critical because you kind of need to tick all three boxes. It's this sort of holy trinity of YouTube algorithm success that dictates whether or not your video actually does well. So when you sort of wrap this all up together and you've got these three concepts together, that's when you sort of understand that you need to actually hit all three. So I'm just going to give you some like scenarios, right? And give you some examples of like why this may or may not work. So the first scenario is you have high click-through rate and you have low average view duration. That usually means you have like, you've targeted the wrong audience. It means you've got great title and thumbnail, but the content basically doesn't match the viewer's needs, right? For example, you might be a share trading expert and people click on it and the stock trading strategy video was like too basic, right? So people basically went there and went, I'm a more sophisticated trader. This video is just like not for me, basically, okay? Then you've got scenario 2, which is low click-through rate, but high average view duration. That usually just means you have poor packaging, right? You might have the world's best kept secret, but you're not attracting clicks. You got really valuable content. The example that I give is like, it's like having a really bad email subject line, but having a great email inside. If you have a bad subject line, then you're going to get less clicks on the emails, and therefore you're going to get less people viewing the actual email as well. Same thing for a video, right? So we just need this perfect equilibrium between like high click-through rate, which basically means you've attracted the right people interested in that topic, and people interested in your title and thumbnail and the promise that it brings. They watch most of it, which is average view duration. And the last one is they get real satisfaction out of it. And so generally speaking, if you hit all three of these, then your video should fundamentally perform. And this is what we've been able to do for some of my clients as well, whether they're accountants, loan officers or brokers. It could be buyer's agents, personal brands, coaches, consultants, lawyers. We've been able to do it for many, many businesses using and understanding this exact playbook when it comes to the algorithm as well. So if your video is like stuck in the sort of like sub 100 view count space and YouTube's not recommending your videos, then make sure you double check and see whether or not your video is actually hitting all three of those pillars as a result. And in case you're a little bit stuck and you're still not sure where to go, or you need a little bit of extra help, you can actually book in a call down below for a free strategy call and speak to myself and my team, and we can take a look at your channel and see how we can improve that as well and get you out of that 100 view jail. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much. Make sure you like and subscribe for future videos on how to actually use YouTube to generate leads and revenue for your business. My name is Kan Huang, and I'll see you next time.